The other point of outrage in Washington today was the arraignment of Trump's former FBI chief turned enemy, James Comey. At Trump's command, Comey has been indicted on charges related to authorizing a leak of classified information, even though investigators found insufficient evidence that he leaked classified information. And the prosecution's lead witness says he never leaked classified information. Other than that, though, lock him up.
Trying to tell the public we're in a massive misinformation campaign. The president himself tweeting out AI videos of fake news reports on healthcare. This is really dangerous and it's really hard. And I cannot express to you the concern and the absolute bafflement and fear of our European allies asking me, is this stuff really?
Funny thing about power, it gets loudest when it's got nothing left to say. Trump calls that leadership. Kimmel calls it performance art with a teleprompter that never learned punctuation. Walz watches like a teacher grading a blank page labeled innovation. Somewhere between policy and improv, America cast a reality show host as president, a man who treats every scandal like a season finale cliffhanger, waiting for ratings to rise instead of a country to heal.
Trump wants that Nobel Prize so bad. I've seen a lot of Oscar and Emmy campaigns, but no one has ever vied for an award more vigorously than our Dalai Lama.
Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize. He didn't do anything. They gave it to Obama for doing absolutely nothing. He got the Nobel Prize for doing nothing. They should give me the Nobel Prize. Everyone says that I should get the...
And I am going to challenge him. I mean, my God, we've got the White House threatening investigations in jail time because an escalator stopped. Walk up the damn stairs. This stuff happens. This is life. Do not normalize.
Kimmel begins where every Trump story starts, with a declaration of greatness so bold it dares gravity to disagree. The economy is perfect, the borders impenetrable, the world envious. And when facts refuse to cooperate, well, that's a facts problem, not a slogan problem. Walz just shakes his head. He's seen confidence before, but never the kind that keeps standing in a hurricane of evidence. For a man who brags about building empires, Trump's true masterpiece might be the scaffolding that props up his own myth.
The president using the Department of Justice to prosecute people he doesn't like is very concerning, especially if, personally speaking, you are one of the people he doesn't like. No one makes enemies like Donald Trump. He even has a problem with the QAnon shaman now. Remember the guy in the horns who stormed the Capitol? Well, he's doing great, first of all, but he's suing his beloved...
Every week brings a new crisis, and every crisis gets the same fix, a press conference and a boast that no one else could handle it better. Kimmel suspects the real infrastructure project is the one patching holes in the president's story. He talks about rebuilding roads but spends more time rebuilding timelines. Walz can't tell if it's audacity or optimism, watching a man rebrand chaos as efficiency and sell it as modernization, with confidence strong enough to pave over reality.
I was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. I got the Nobel Peace Prize nomination. I got nominated for the Nobel Prize. Where's my Nobel Peace Prize they don't talk about? A Peace Prize Nobel nomination, and they didn't cover it. And I don't care, but I'm not looking for it. I'm not politicking for it. I'm just saying that there's a lot of unfairness in this world.
Yeah, well, you know what? No one has suffered more unfairness.
There's an art to taking credit, and Trump turned it into a lifestyle brand. The sun rises, that's leadership. The stock market twitches, that's genius. A law survives Congress despite him, proof of his influence. If a hurricane shifts course, it's strategic weather management. Walz laughs quietly, the kind of laugh that fills the space where disbelief runs out. Kimmel sums it up best. This is what happens when a businessman learns the hard way that democracy doesn't offer refunds, only receipts.
The administration will start firing workers instead of furloughing them, and do you think they might target workers in blue states?
I do. I think it goes back to this question, Tom, that it appears like they're trying to do that. The disruption is there. The willingness of the Speaker of the House to blatantly, I have seen Fox News even correct this issue, that trying to tell the public we're in a massive misinformation campaign. The president himself tweeting out AI videos of fake news.
He shakes hands like he's signing a licensing deal. Kimmel says diplomacy under Trump feels like reality TV dating, dramatic exits, sudden reconciliations, and everyone pretending to be in control. Walz likens it to coaching Little League with a player who insists the scoreboard is fake simply because he doesn't like the numbers.
Why are you suing Donald Trump?
Because he's out of his ding-dong diddly mind. The guy, he's not mentally fit to be president.
But he pardoned you. He gave you a full pardon.
Ipso facto. Does that sound like a guy making rational decisions? I mean, I'm wearing horns and whacking it at the library.
Okay.
Agencies scramble to translate tweets into policy. And yet, beneath the comedy, the machinery keeps grinding on. Staffers study facial expressions like scholars decoding ancient runes, trying to guess whether a frown means fire them or retweet that. Kimmel imagines the morning meetings a blur of applause, confusion, and PowerPoint slides explaining why yesterday's statement no longer counts. Walz, ever the pragmatist, wonders how long a government can run on improvisation before it finally runs out of breath. What makes it surreal isn't the exaggeration, it's the sincerity behind it. Trump believes every line. To him, conviction is proof enough. Say it often enough, and the universe will catch up. Kimmel calls it wishful legislation. Walz calls it leadership through repetition. Somewhere between the two, America calls it Tuesday. The rallies never really ended, they just changed venues. Every appearance still follows the same rhythm: declaration, applause, grievance, applause again. Kimmel notes that it's less politics and more energy transfer, a national battery charging itself on outrage. Walz sees it differently. It's what happens when civic engagement gives way to crowd participation, when politics becomes a concert where everyone knows the chorus but not the meaning. The chant changes, but the message doesn't: loyalty above logic, enthusiasm above evidence. Every president hopes to leave a legacy. This one seems intent on leaving a slogan. Make it great again, a phrase so endlessly recycled it's lost its timestamp. No one can quite agree on which again he means: the factories of the 50s, the rallies of the 80s, or some imagined past that never existed at all. Kimmel jokes that if nostalgia were policy, the budget would be balanced by now. Walz doesn't laugh. He's too busy wondering what happens when the show finally ends.
He's had it hard, guys. He's had it really hard. He claims he's not politicking for the Peace Prize, which must be why the White House posted this very subtle message calling him the Peace President. The Peace President is sending a platoon to invade a yoga studio in Portland right now. This is all you need to know about how we're being perceived around the world. Norway braces for Trump's reaction if he does not win the Nobel.
Cable news. Patriotism, once principle, now feels like packaging, half pride, half merchandise. Then comes the economy, the perpetual trophy on the desk. When the numbers rise, it's personal brilliance; when they fall, it's deep state sabotage. The narrative is bulletproof, immune to math or memory. Kimmel says it's like watching someone grade their own report card in crayon, colorful, confident, and completely self-assessed. Walz reminds him that true strength isn't pretending everything's perfect, it's admitting when it's not. But self-reflection was never part of the brand. The presidency treats statistics like seasoning: sprinkle them when they taste good, ignore them when they don't. Environmental policy turns into a running joke. Climate change is dismissed as an exaggeration until a golf course floods, at which point it becomes an unforeseeable act of nature. Kimmel wonders how a man who built so many towers can still act surprised by rising levels. Walz calls it selective foresight, the ability to recognize a crisis only when it reaches the front nine. The administration's energy plan seems powered by two inexhaustible resources: nostalgia and natural gas. Both are plentiful, neither renewable in spirit. Public health reveals the same contradiction. When experts speak, they're inconvenient. When numbers drop, they're trophies. It's a cycle of celebration and denial, wrapped in press releases and applause lines. Every data point becomes a prop, every setback a conspiracy, every brief success proof that the system works only because one man wills it to. Walz sighs. Kimmel shrugs. The show continues, powered less by policy than by performance, its plot fueled by the endless promise of greatness just one headline away.
He negotiated the damn trade deal with them. If trade is so bad with Canada, he was the guy who signed the deal. It defies logic. But look, I think this is how he ran business. He stiffed contractors. He stiffed workers. He doesn't pay his bills. He declares bankruptcy. The one thing is, his claim that he's the business president, he is the worst possible business executive that I have ever.
The cabinet meetings feel like boardroom scenes from a sitcom. Everyone nods, everyone applauds, and no one dares be the first to leave. Loyalty is currency, and inflation is high. Kimmel says it's like watching employees praise the chef while the kitchen burns. Walz adds that real leadership isn't about demanding applause but earning it when no one's watching. Yet in this administration, visibility is the only reward that matters. Foreign observers once called it unpredictable. Now they just call it American. Walz, steady as ever, notes that consistency used to be a strength, now it's a weakness, because predictability doesn't trend. The world keeps adjusting to the noise, waiting for a pause that never arrives. Beneath the humor lies a heavy truth. Policies still shape lives. Rhetoric still divides neighbors. Confusion still costs time. Kimmel knows the jokes only land because the consequences are real. Walz understands that satire doesn't fix what's broken, it only illuminates the cracks. Together, they peel back the layers of absurdity, not to humiliate but to remind people what normal used to sound like: conversation without slogans, leadership without spectacle, and a government that didn't need applause to prove it was still functioning.
The Senate Judiciary Committee was at work today hearing testimony from Trump's Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Bondi refused to deny that border czar Tom Homan was seen accepting $50,000 in cash in a paper bag at a Cava restaurant. He hasn't even denied this either. How crazy is it? $50,000 in a bag. The FBI got it on tape. He's still running the border. He's still in charge of rounding up illegals. Hey, Tom, if you're looking for illegals, we found one living in your house.
Somewhere in all of it, the myth of self-made strength keeps replaying. The notion that power equals virtue, that volume equals truth. Kimmel calls it the gospel of confidence without content, a sermon delivered at full volume, regardless of the message. Walz calls it emotional economics: invest enough belief, and the stock price of ego will never drop. But numbers don't lie forever. Eventually, even the market of admiration crashes, as election cycles blur into one continuous rerun. The campaign never truly ends. Every press conference doubles as an advertisement, every public appearance as proof of relevance. When exaggeration becomes normal, truth starts to sound radical. And yet, the spectacle endures because it works. Chaos fills airtime. Confusion drives engagement. Outrage keeps the audience coming back for more. It's governance through entertainment: keep them watching, keep them reacting, never let the credits roll. Kimmel calls it the logical evolution of reality television: politics as performance, crisis as content. When fame outruns responsibility, Walz sighs, credibility becomes just another prop. Democracy, he warns, was never meant to be binge-watched. It needs patience, not programming; participation, not applause. But patience doesn't trend, and outrage never sleeps. The most fascinating part, Kimmel says, is how completely Trump believes the mythology. Every setback is rewritten as strategy. Every failure repackaged as foresight. He's an actor who's forgotten the difference between the role and the man, convinced that the applause is proof of purpose. Walz watches quietly, recognizing the irony: the stronger the performance, the weaker the script. And somewhere between spectacle and governance, America finds itself still watching, half entertained, half exhausted, waiting for a scene that finally feels unscripted again.
The government of Norway is scared he might punish them, that he might declare them an enemy for not giving him the Nobel Peace Prize. Give me that Peace Prize or I'll stick it up your Aurora Borealis. No president has ever been more committed to peace. And he's arresting all the rabble-rousers to prove it.
We have arrested dozens of individuals that are Antifa members or affiliated with them, and I want to thank our Attorney General for prosecuting them and making sure they never see the light of day again.
That's just the Secretary of Homeland Security suggesting we lock up American protesters for life.
Walz says that's what happens when performance replaces purpose. It's not deception, it's immersion. He's not lying, he's living inside the story. And maybe that's the secret. He isn't pretending to lead a show, he genuinely believes the show is leadership. Every camera flash feels like confirmation, every headline like prophecy. The applause may fade, but in his mind, the crowd is eternal, an audience that never leaves, only pauses between cheers. Kimmel calls it a feedback loop of self-confidence, an endless cycle where belief replaces reflection. The more absurd the claim, the louder the echo. They don't dismantle him with insults, they do it with perspective. Kimmel exposes the theater of it all, the grand gestures, the inflated language, the desperate need for validation masquerading as strength. Walz provides the context, connecting every punchline back to policy, every laugh to consequence. Together, they reveal the quiet tragedy beneath the spectacle. The moment the joke stopped being funny was the moment it became normal. Their humor lands not because it's cruel, but because it's painfully accurate, the kind of truth that smirks before it sighs. By the end, there's no fury left, only fatigue. Fatigue from the noise, the spin, the constant performance mistaken for purpose. Walz leans back, wondering if the nation has learned to confuse attention with accomplishment. Kimmel stares at the screen, half amused, half resigned. The laughter fades into a kind of silence that feels heavier than outrage, a recognition that what began as farce has settled into routine. And somewhere between the satire and the sorrow, they both realize the curtain isn't coming down anytime soon. The show, for better or worse, goes on.
Faces up to 5 years in prison. Today he pleaded not guilty, and the prosecutor in the case is a Trump favorite. Former Miss Colorado third runner-up Lindsay Halligan, who has no experience in prosecution at all. There she is. She was an insurance lawyer, but she's very good looking. Trump picks his lawyers like he's casting a reboot of Suits. They brought Lindsay in at the last minute because the first prosecutor, who himself had been appointed by Trump to the U.S. Attorney's Office 4 months ago, refused to take the case because of a lack of evidence, and also because if you prosecute someone for vindictive reasons, you could lose your license to practice. And in Lindsay Halligan's case, you could even lose your beauty.
Kimmel muses that history will remember this presidency not for what it built, but for how loudly it insisted it was unbreakable while everything beneath it cracked. Walz nods, imagining the textbooks yet to be written, pages filled not with achievements, but with the theater of certainty. Future students will study this era like a case study in confidence gone rogue. Somewhere, a generation will read old tweets the way others once read telegrams, curious relics of a time when power mistook attention for respect. And in the hush after the laughter fades, one image remains, a leader convinced that popularity is policy, surrounded by mirrors reflecting only himself. Kimmel doesn't need a punchline. Walz doesn't need a lecture. The picture speaks louder than satire, the slogans, the spectacle, the endless performance that continued long after the audience had gone home. Maybe that's the final irony. The man who turned politics into primetime television can't see that the show ended seasons ago. The credits have rolled, the cameras packed up, the stage lights dimmed. Yet he's still there, rehearsing lines no one asked for, selling the next season of a show that reality itself canceled. The promises have turned into reruns, the slogans into faint echoes bouncing through an empty set. Still, he performs with the same certainty, convinced the ratings are higher than ever. Every pause feels like applause, every shadow a fan. The performance persists not out of deception, but belief, the deep, unshakable conviction that if the show goes on, the story never ends.